The hard thing is we live in a society that is full of lies, that is full of sedation, that is full of a lot of people not getting clear about who they actually are, what they want, what direction they're going, anything like that. And there's this pursuit of like, how do I actually become the person I'm called to be if I'm filled up with all of these lies? I'm filled up with all these different things. So I want to break down for you today and talk to you about this aspect that I've learned about and that I've started to apply into my life, and so I've started to teach other people, and that's actually living by a code. Now, when I talk about living by a code, I'm talking about a set of frameworks and ideas that keep me down a road that I actually want to go down, and not in the same abusive way that I was before. Because it's this pursuit of truth. It's this pursuit of being honest. It's this pursuit of letting me be vulnerable about the shit that's inside so I can actually stand up as a man and say, hey, this is what it is. But it's getting away from the lies that have been a part of my life for such a long period of time. I've never shared this on social media. I've done it inside of our communities, inside of our groups, but I've never shared it on social media. So I want to talk to you about two things today. One is about the code, and one is about fact maps. Okay? Two different concepts that help me move forward on a day-to-day basis to make sure I'm actually living in truth and growing in the direction I want to do. The first aspect is called the code. The code is a framework of how to live by. The first part of the code is showing up authentic, which is this aspect called being real. Now, when we talk about being real, we're saying, how are you showing up honest and authentically? For the majority of my life, I was never showing up honest and authentically. I had a different version of me depending about the person I was with. When I was with this person, I was this way. When I was with this person, I was this way. It changed depending on who I was around. I wasn't real. I wasn't authentic. I wasn't honest. No change can happen in your life unless you're willing to be honest. So the first aspect that I teach inside of the idea of the code is to be real. This is focusing on your facts. What are the facts that you actually have in your life that show where you are? What are the facts of how you're showing up in your life? Of how your body's functioning, of how your spirituality is connected, of how your relationship is working or not working, of how your business is growing and not working. What are just the facts? When we deal with the facts, we start to expose the truth. And that's it. When I started getting on social media, I started to just tell and explain and expose my truth. Of saying, hey, these are the facts of all the shit that I've done in the past. And I couldn't do that without showing up and saying, hey, I have to own and I have to be real. So the first thing in the code is to be real. The second one is to get raw. Now, when we're talking about getting raw, I'm talking about opening up and saying, hey, this is the vulnerable piece. This is the piece that I don't want to actually own up to. I don't want to actually say to other people, right? Of how I actually feel about this. Like, this makes me upset. This makes me mad. Like, all these different things of like, this is my feelings. And so we talk about getting raw. What are the facts of the situation? Then we bring in getting real. And hey, with the aspect of real, we're talking about how you actually feel about it. Me being able to dive into the systems and practices I do every day of like, this is the facts. This is what's actually going. This is how I feel about it. Like, I feel crappy about all the shame that's in my life. I feel awful about the pieces of stuff that I've done in the past that I don't want to think about, that I don't want to own up to. But I have to take a look at that every time I actually say it on social media. I'm like, hey, I'm a self-aware narcissist. I cheated on my wife 5 times. Was mentally, emotionally abusive, gaslight her, all these things. Like, all of this has to come out and say, hey, these are the facts of the situation. Now, how do I feel about it? I feel a lot of shame, feel a lot of guilt. It's stuff that wants to keep me suppressed and sedated. Now we move to the third thing inside the code. And the third thing inside the code is to stay relevant. And this is talking about your focus. Now, if we're looking at the past, we're looking at, hey, what was my focus that actually got me here? Well, I had all these facts. I had all these things that were happening. I had these feelings about it. And my focus kept me in this cycle because I'm like, hey, I'm the victim. I'm the person that this is getting done to. It's not my fault. It's everybody else's fault. Like, it has to be someone else's fault. It's not me. So now I have to be like, what is my focus if I actually want to change that? If I actually want to grow, change, and develop into the person I'm called to be. So when I start saying I'm living by a code, it's showing up real, which is authentic, which is truthful, showing up raw, which is engaging with my feelings, if this is the emotions, these are the things I'm doing, and then it shows up in relevancy of this is how I'm actually focusing on a day-to-day basis to get radical results. The fourth one is talking about results, and that is focused on the fruit. Now, it's fascinating because people want to be able to say, and narcissists oftentimes want to say, look how much I've changed, look how much I've done, and you're like, show me the fruit. because I don't actually see that result in your life. You keep saying you're going to therapy, you keep saying you're working on yourself, you keep saying this is changing, but I don't actually see the fruit. You might be watching this today and you're like, that's exactly, like, I saw this happen. And you're sitting here and you're like, well, I actually don't see the fruit in my own healing. Why is that? What has been your focus over the past 6 to 12 months to actually get you to the place of not seeing the fruit? So we have to be able to approach everything and saying, hey, looking at this, I start to live by a code every single day, which is focusing on being real, getting raw, staying relevant to produce results. This framework is built on truth. It's built on how I show up every single day has to be authentically me. Like this version of me that you see here on social media versus when you see me on another live event, or when you see me in a workshop, or when you see me on a group call, or when you see me in a one-on-one client situation, it doesn't change. It has to be the same. If it's not the same, then I'm not living by a code. I'm not living in my truth. I'm not living in the facts of the situation. So I have to be able to do that every single day. Then we bring into a whole nother layer of what I do and what I also teach, which is the aspect called fact mapping. Fact mapping, I'm going to break it down for you so you understand. I'm going to try to do the best I can on a live so it makes sense. Fact mapping is a couple stages. The first aspect is focusing on the facts, okay? And this is the facts of where are you right now. So like if you sat down, you're like, where am I right now? How is my body functioning? How am I able to handle mentally, emotionally, spiritually? Where am I at? How are my relationships currently? What are the facts about all of these things? How is my business? How is like money that I actually produce? All of these things. What are the facts in this situation? And we take a very close look of these are just the cold hard facts, not your opinions, not your feelings, only the facts. This is where you are. Then I take a look at, okay, if this is where I am, then where do I want to go? And we talk about this in the aspect of freedom. Freedom of this is the life that I want to be able to live. This is the version of me that I want to be able to develop. This is not an incongruent version. This is not a completely different version. This is a new version of you that you're actually growing, changing, developing, and starting to become the person that you're called to be. So then I do the same exact thing. I look, okay, where do I want to be? In 12 months, 6 to 12 months from now, where do I want to be in my body? How do I want that to look? How do I want that to feel? How do I want to show up? Where do I want that in my emotional and mental state? How do I want that connection to be with my connection to God? How do I want that to show up in my relationship, with my connection with my wife or with my daughter? What does that actually look like? How am I actually going to help influence others with the business that I run? So I take a quick look at like all of the facts, then I'll look at all of where I want to be with freedom. This is freedom maps, fact map, and then freedom map. Then we're like, hey, this is where I am. This is what I want. This is where I want to go. Then we hone it all in and we focus on 30 days. Not 6 months from now, 30 days. A lot of times I'll be like, well, I don't know how I'm going to, 30 days. But I'm not sure how I'm going to get this in the next quarter, 30 days. Focus on 30 days. Out of those 30 days, define 4 things that are going to happen. 4 things that are going to happen in my body, my being, my business, and my balance. 4 things that I'm going to do in the period of a month. You're like, that doesn't seem like a whole lot. You got 30 days to be able to work on 16 different things. These things aren't huge. They're building habits. They're building patterns of this is how I'm actually setting myself up to be the person that I'm actually called to be. 1 thing a week. And so we start off and then we break it down even more. I've got 4 things to do. First one is going to happen on week 1. Then we break it down with a week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And they're like, okay, this is when I'm going to do it. All of this starts to hone people in. It starts to hone me in of the direction that I want to go. And that every single day, every single thing that I do is moving me in that direction. The problem is all of that falls apart if I do not live by a code. If I don't show up real and authentic, if I don't show up raw, engaging with my feelings, if I don't check the relevancy of where I'm at with the focus of how it's actually brought me here, and to be able to see the results, the fruit of is this actually working or not working. This is a framework that I have been living with for multiple years now. This is a framework that has turned the tide for me in a lot of different aspects of my life and that we teach inside some of our communities. because it is a framework and a system that we're seeing progress, not just in my life, but in the life of hundreds of other people that are using this, that are able to say, if I show up real and if I show up raw, that's better than the majority of people out there that show up as fake plastic people. People that are like this is doing okay. It's really not that bad. I'll just keep pretending and saying that this stuff works, when in reality, nothing's actually changing. Nothing's actually developing. Nothing's actually growing. Nothing's actually healing. So where are you at with this today? Do you resonate with this piece of me saying, hey, in order to grow, change, develop, you have to show up honest and vulnerable. You have to start living in a way that actually matches up to who you want to be. And in order to do that, you have to get really clear on the facts, the truth of the situation.